In Great Britain, the government has appointed a minister for loneliness. Tracy Couch, a British lawmaker, has accepted the position to help the more than 9 million people in her country who deal with loneliness. And here in the U.S., the situation is no better. The former Surgeon General says loneliness is a growing epidemic, and survey data suggests that 1/3 of Americans over 45 feel lonely. And here to talk to us about the negative effects of loneliness is licensed family therapist Linda Mintle. Thanks so much for being with us. This is such a sad topic because so many people are lonely and the health benefits are numerous. I mean, I should say the health detriments. It's very bad for your health. It's an extreme form of stress.
Yes, and we know it's linked to things like heart disease and diabetes, but we even know that if you're lonely, it's the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day when you're dealing with loneliness. So, and loneliness is often a precursor to people feeling very depressed. And then we know that there are a lot of people who are dealing with depression, which again, all of those things can shorten your lifespan and create a lot of problems. So it is a serious concern that so many people are feeling this, and to have a country, I was so taken aback by a country would appoint somebody to take care of the loneliness in their country. That's just wild to me that they would have to do that.
But it is such a tragedy and so prevalent, and not just for older people who recently lost a spouse, but you see this in very young people, the Gen Xers who are really kind of communicating with people online, and that's not really bonding with another person.
It isn't. And our brains are made to be in connection with other people. We are wired that way, the way God designed us. We are wired to be in relationships, and they need to be more than the superficial ones that you're talking about that oftentimes we have online. They need to be real-time, intimate, face-to-face. There's so many studies that show the support, the community that you gather from being in relationship with people sustains you in so many ways, not just the physical ways, but in your own mental health, in your spiritual life, and all parts of who you are. So it's important to be in relationship with people.
And it really is sad the way that we have lost community in the United States. People don't know their neighbors, they're not connected. Churches are so huge with thousands of members. And so you see so many people, even at churches, going in, listening to the sermon and running back to their cars and never really connecting with people. So that's where the small groups come in. What are some other ways people can connect?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned with the large churches, because I do think that's a problem that a lot of times we don't talk about. And you're absolutely right. You have to get into a small group. You have to find a niche in that church. And actually, you have to be pretty proactive. So my husband and I moved to a different area. We were in a church of about 4,000 people. Nobody ever noticed if we were there or not there. We actually had to start talking to people and saying, hey, we're new. We need some friends, which sounds a little weird to say to people. But when you do that, then people might begin to talk to you. But again, people are very busy with their lives. They don't really take the time to invite you over like we used to do back in the day. And so you can know people, but you have to figure out other ways that you've got to get in community. So I think things in your own community too, like taking an art class, finding a hobby that you really enjoy, a club that maybe you could get into fellowship with other people, like interests. That's one thing that you can begin to bond with people over. A lot of times if you have children, that's a good way to engage, because children and their activities will pull you in with somebody. But I think the real problem is in the elderly population. And one of the things the minister of loneliness in Great Britain is looking at is the American retirement community. And she's been looking at it and saying, you know, there's something to this. And I know my dad, since my mom died, has been in a retirement community. And he has to go 3 times a day to be with people at meals. They have activities that you can join in, and I really think that's one of the reasons why he's still here at 97.
Isn't that interesting? Because you hear about people who are retired and they want so badly to stay in their own homes, but that's a great way to stay lonely, is being in your own home. And you know, a lot of older people are resistant to be put into community facilities, but there are a lot of nice ones.
There are, and I think that's very true. I think with my dad, I'm thinking about when my mom died, you know, he was not able to drive as much. He's in his 90s now. His eyesight is getting bad from the diabetes. He would have been very alone. A lot of his friends have died. He wouldn't have had that kind of community staying in his house. But bringing him into a retirement community of people keeps his mind active. He's thinking, he's talking to people, he's socializing, and that's what we all need, whether we're 10 years old, you know, because kids who are lonely and shy and don't have friends at school don't do well. They have mental health issues usually and problems. So from the very young to the very old, again, connection is the thing. And I'd like to encourage the minister of loneliness to think about faith communities. So one of the things I think about in Great Britain is how much in the public life, Lori, they've taken out anything that has to do with faith or God. And I do believe that this is one of the reasons why people are lonelier today, because there's no moral compass in the world. There's nothing connecting people. And the faith perspective that we have says serve other people. Be with other people, do for other people, get connected to other people. We know that's a correction to depression for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So the fact that they're not talking about a faith-based position, maybe that's something that we should encourage them to do.
Right, and developing that relationship with the Lord means you're never really alone, but you do need that human connection as well.
You do.
All right, Linda Mintle, great to see you as always. Thanks for being here. And if you'd like more information, go to Linda Mintle's website, drlindamintle.com.